Welcome to my Phase 3 Mage Guide for Season of Discovery. In this guide, we'll be going over everything you need to know to maximize your damage in Sunken Temple. For specs, you have the normal Combustion build, or you have the Winter's Chill build. You're going to have at least one Mage with Winter's Chill, since this applies to your Frostfire Bolt spell. You can swap around this point in Flamethrowing and go into Ice Barrier if you want a bit of survivability. This Flamethrowing talent does apply to your Frostfire spell, so it does help out a little bit if the boss moves out of your distance. Your runes, you're going to use Deep Freeze, Fingers of Frost, Molten Armor, Living Bomb, Spell Power, Icy Veins, and Frostfire Bolt. You can swap Fingers of Frost and use Burnout. The Fingers of Frost procs are insane if you get them, but it's just a bit of RNG if you're going to get those procs or not. For the fire build, you're going to use the same exact runes, except you're going to use Burnout and Advanced Warning. For the talents, we are going to go all the way into Combustion, making sure you pick up Improved Scorch along the way. Pick up Flamethrowing, you can put that into Blast Wave if you want to, have a little bit more of AoE damage, but that's pretty much the build. For gear, I will leave a link to both of these 60 upgrades. They contain both Pre-Raid Bis and Bis, and items you can pick up along the way. Briefly, I'd like to go over the Eye of Flame versus the Crafted Helmet. The Crafted Helmet is only better than the Eye of Flame on fights that are 50 seconds or shorter, so that's the only scenario where you will use one over the other. Other than that, the Crafted Helmet is better than all of these other helmets if you have the on use up. I figured I'd mention that because this on use is so powerful, you want to be able to use it on whatever fight you might need that 99 on. Before we get into rotation, I will leave a link to all of my weak auras and macros in my Discord. I just noticed this too. I don't have a Winter's Chill tracker. I will leave that as well in the Discord. But let me go over this macro real quick. You need to make at least one of these macros, maybe two of these, to have a CQS macro. This allows you to press your mana gem and then continue casting your spell without having to press that button. My favorite one is the cooldown macro button to use all of your CDs, as well as your trinkets, your on use for your helmet, and your racial if you're troll, and then using CQS at the bottom to continue that primary rotation. So if you're playing traditional fire, you could just swap this out and type fireball. If you're playing arcane, you would put arcane blast, etc, etc. For rotation, we're going to try to precast a pyroblast if we have a long enough pull timer. If not, just go with a frostfire bolt or even a scorch. After that, make sure that you have 5 stacks of Scorch and then apply your Living Bomb. Assuming you have 5 stacks of Winter's Chill, you can go ahead and pop your CQS macro and pop all your CDs. So Icy Veins, Combustion, your Crafted Helmet, and Berserking if you have that. You're going to then go into a filler rotation of spamming Frostfire Bolt and only reapplying Living Bomb if it explodes. Only use Fire Blast if you have to move, and refresh Scorch. Make sure that you don't let this fall off because it's a pretty big DPS loss if you have to stack it back up 5 times. Toward the end of the fight, make sure that you're not reapplying your Living Bomb, only reapply it if you know that it will explode. And if you can't cast another Frostfire Bolt before the fight ends, try to cast a Fire Blast, and if you still have a little bit of time left, go for a Scorch since it has no travel time. For Frost, it's exactly the same. You're going to be doing a Frostfire Bolt spam, reapplying Living Bomb whenever it explodes, using Deep Freeze whenever you get your Fingers of Frost procs, and then occasionally using your Cold Snap to do a double Icy Veins for some big damage. For consumes, we're going to use the Greater Arcane Elixir. Alternatively, you can use the Arcane Elixir or even the Lesser Arcane Elixir, the Firepower Elixir, and we're only going to use the Frost Power if we have the Deep Freeze build. You're going to use the Mojo of Magic. This overwrites the Blasted Lands buff, so just use this instead. And of course, if you have a Profession consume, make sure that you're using that. So the flasks and the potion for alchemy, and then the enchanting, you're going to want to use the sigil. For food buffs, we're going to use Knife and Soup. For weapon imbues, we're going to use the Lesser Wizard Oil, and then you can use Superior Mana Pots or even Greater Mana Pots. But as a mage, most of the time, I'm not going by just using my mana gems. That's all for my mage guide. I'll be making a new video for each phase that comes out. Feel free to ask me anything on Twitch, Discord, or just leave it in the comments below. I'll be reading all of them. If you like this video, be sure to check out my boss guide. I will leave it at the end screen, and I'll leave it in the description as well. I go over every single boss, just simple strategies you can implement into your next raid as